All right, we are venturing into Ruth 3, and it is about ready to get a little bit spicy. If you have ever wondered what really went on between Ruth and Boaz and was it appropriate or inappropriate, well, we're going to cover a little bit of that in today's devotion. But let's start off. Chapter 3, verse 1 says, "One day Naomi said to Ruth, 'My daughter, it's time that I found a permanent home for you so that you will be provided for.'" Interesting enough, she has been gleaning in Boaz's field, we believe, between 6 to 8 weeks at this point. And so she has just been showing up, being faithful, but now Naomi's like, it's time. And we talked in our last devotion about a kinsman redeemer and what it meant by Boaz being their kinsman redeemer and how he could truly change their life. So go back and listen to that devotion if you want to know more about that. But here she's like, okay, it's time to take action with Boaz. So she goes on to say, verse 2, "Boaz is a close relative of ours, and he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with his young women tonight. Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor." This one man has shown such kindness to Ruth. He has the potential to change not only Ruth's life, but Naomi's life by redeeming them and by bringing them into his family, providing for him. And she's like, tonight is the night, and he is going to be winnowing barley. And if you're like, what does that mean? Basically, what would happen is at the end of the harvest, they would take the stalks and they would throw them up into the air, and they would allow the dried stuff to fall and the seed to fall on the ground. So the dry stuff would kind of be blown away. So they would be kind of on a hilltop, open area, and they would do it at night because they would kind of play on those night breezes, and the seeds would fall to the ground. So the heavy part would fall. This was a celebration because this was all of our work that we've been doing this whole time. It's finally coming where we're actually seeing the fruit of our labor. So they would be drinking, they would be eating as they would be winnowing this barley. Verse 3, "Now do as I tell you." This is Naomi talking to Ruth. "Take a bath and put on perfume and dress in your nicest clothes. Then go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he has finished eating and drinking. Be sure to notice where he lies down, and then go and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do." You see, Ruth can't just walk up to Boaz and say, "Yo, you're my kinsman redeemer. You're supposed to save me from this kind of life. So marry me, act on it." She can't do that. This is a male respected, dominated society. She has to have him take the lead and perceive that he is taking the lead on everything. So even though Boaz has potential to be her husband, she has just been showing up and gleaning in that hot sun for these 6 to 8 weeks. I'm sure it had to be hard for her not to take matters into her own hands. But now, Naomi, the woman that she looks up to, who connects with the Lord, is saying, now it is time. So take a shower, put on your finest clothes, look your best, and go to him after he's been feasting and eating and drinking all night long. And you look and go, was this appropriate or was this inappropriate? Well, was Ruth's intention to seduce Boaz? Okay, Moabite women were known to be seductresses. They were known to seduce the Israelite men, which is why the Moabites got even such a bad reputation with the Israelites in the first place. That's why God banned the Israelite men from marrying Moabite women, which, by the way, let's just stop there for a second. When she's like, it's time for you to find a permanent location, Boaz was one of the only options that Ruth even had. Why? Because she was still a Moabite woman. They were known for being these immoral people who you shouldn't be with, that God said, don't be with Moabite women to the Israelite men. And so Boaz has already shown her such kindness. And whoever married Ruth had the potential to also then become an outcast of society, just like Ruth was. And so Boaz, already with prestige and wealth and reputation, was one of the few people that could actually claim her, could change her life, because people would still accept him even if he would marry Ruth. And so this is like her one chance. Her one chance. Get ready, Naomi's saying. Put on your finest clothes. Here we go. And then Ruth, is she supposed to seduce Boaz? Well, I'm going to go back to that idea of a permanent home. If Ruth's intentions from Naomi were to sleep with Boaz, that would not be a permanent home. In fact, Being caught in adultery or an immoral act such as sleeping with somebody outside of marriage was a result of stoning in this Jewish society. You could be stoned. And so when she's like, I'm looking for a permanent home, I go back and go, I don't think she was meant to actually seduce him and sleep with him, because there would be no permanence there. In fact, there would be the likelihood of death being involved in that situation. No, I believe it was actually intended probably to not be leading towards that kind of nightly affair, but something actually different. She is trying to get his attention. However, does this include its own danger? Absolutely. They were actually resting upon the fact that not only Boaz was a man of character, which they had seen over this period of time, but they were counting on Boaz to know that Ruth was a woman of character, which we know that he has seen that. We've heard that in his own words, but we are counting on him to know that in this moment, because if he were to take advantage of her, after drinking and eating and her being right there at his feet, then that could go south for her too. And she would be all of a sudden an immoral woman. So was it appropriate? Yes, I believe that there was probably no foul intended here. It wasn't intended for her actually to go sleep with Boaz. But was it inappropriate? Well, yeah, it actually involved its own risk, and things could have really gone in a bad direction if it wasn't perceived exactly as she intended it to be perceived. Verse 5, Ruth says, I will do everything you say. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. Ruth was ready to act. She had stayed consistent to the gleaning and just showing up for all these weeks, and now the time has come and she is ready to move. The field she gleaned for herself, but the threshing floor she is meant to give of herself. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because when we look at the threshing floor and we see it mentioned in 2 Samuel and Judges and Luke, we see the threshing floor being symbolic of sacrifice. And I want to stop here because I think that there's a lesson to be learned right here that we can kind of consider and ponder on our own lives is, are we willing to be a sacrifice of the Lord in order to get the blessings that he would like to bestow upon us? Some of the biggest blessings of the Lord require sacrifice on our part. A couple devotions back, we talked about how God wants to give us the God-sized blessings. But we have to understand, to receive those God-sized blessings, we have to be willing to sacrifice. Romans 12:1 says, present yourself as a living sacrifice. And here Ruth is getting all dolled up and ready, and she is risking her reputation, her character, her future, because she believes that God has something more in store for her, and this is the avenue that he desires for her to take. And I do have to sit back there and I have to say, am I willing to risk? Am I willing to risk and put myself out there to receive the God-sized blessings? The threshing floor. It's so easy to receive. Even in the hot sun, Ruth was out there gleaning for herself. She was doing what was best for her in the moment. But now on the threshing floor, she is asked to give of herself. Are you willing to give of yourself to get the God-sized blessing? But you guys, something big is about ready to happen. And we've got a lot more juicy details to go into what actually is going to go on as the next verse, when she actually shows up. What does she do? How do things go down? Again, you go through, if you go to Google, you'll see two different views on the story. But I want to give you my view on what really happened this night between Ruth and Boaz. But that's for our next devotion. So make sure you tune in, because it's going to get good. We love you guys. I hope you have a fabulous day.